To create the filter with Spark AR, I open up the app, I select the create new, and you can create a video calling experience. And as you can see, this is going to be shared on Instagram, Messenger. I don't know what the symbol means, but I use sharing experience so I can have it as a face filter. And also you might be able to use it on Facebook. It should work for everything, so depending on what you want, that's the one that you choose. And all I have in here is the model inside of the face tracker, so it's a child of the face tracker, so it follows the movement of the head. It is reading all of the blend shapes that I created, but I'm only using 3 of them because I didn't want to spend too much time. It is quite hard to plug a lot of these things in for it to be able to read all of the blend shapes. In the patch editor, this is my setup. Face finder is gonna create a face select connected to a face tracker. This automatically gets set up if you drag in the face tracker into the patch editor. And then for the face, to control the eyelids, so this is the eyelid node, and we have the left openness, so how much the left eye is open. And then I need to have this set of logic, because actually if I unplug this for now and if I go to the eye blink right, the openness here is set on the opposite way, on the opposite direction. And I actually have these controls backwards. I have my eye blinking right, but it's supposed to be the left openness. If I just attach this directly, you see that it's on the opposite. So this number is telling me how open it is, but then my blend shape is set to whenever it blinks. So whenever it closes. So what I am doing is I am taking this value, I am subtracting 1 to it because I need the remainder. I don't need this 0.7, 0.8, I need the remainder of 1, so I need that 0.2. So what I'm doing is just subtracting 1, and then I am just negating that value because I already have the remainder. These value ones are just for me to see the value going through. You actually don't need this. But once I have the remainder of 1, I know it's a negative, so I just need to negate it to make it positive. So whenever I attach it to the blend shape, you will see that it is going to work the way that I want it. I have the same setup for the other eye. And for the mouth, is simply a mouth open. Again, I need this openness. And because this is the jaw opening, I can just attach it directly. For the material, I have a simple standard shader, and I only attach the albedo. So I only have this texture. Okay, so this is the texture. The original texture is a 4096 by 4096, so 4K, but Spark is going to limit you to a maximum resolution of 1K, 1024 squared. It will automatically compress it, but I have it set to none, no compression on any of the devices, just because the file size is pretty small. And we can actually go to the asset summary, and in here you will see all of the information that you need. So my project total right now is 3 megabytes. There's a limit of 4 megabytes on Spark. We can see that the original size is 6.3, and actually my Doge head model is 5.6 megabytes. And you can see that the Doge head model is 5.6, but it is getting compressed to a 2.4. So 2.4 for the model. I actually don't need the specular, so I'm just going to delete it. And the texture is like a quarter of the megabyte. Green color means that we are within the limit, so we are good to go. Oh, and one more thing for the lighting. I only have this ambient lighting. I think I just I just play with the intensity and the directional light. These are just the default lighting settings. So all I did was play with the color and with the intensity. We can see that it is running at 30 frames per second, 30 on average. And then 2 things that can improve in this workflow, I just don't know how to set up. I saw a tutorial where you can set up the rest of the blend shapes, but this is already a lot of work for me. I can get this done faster on a different software, so I just didn't actually bother to do the rest. And then for the material, you can use a physically based, a PVR material. If you want to use the metallic map, the specular / roughness, and the occlusion, you actually have to do what is called texture packing. So you need to put everything on one texture, and that's just an extra step that I just didn't want to get done. But if you already have that set up, then you can just add the texture. Starting with the quality, I'm gonna give the tracking a 8, 7.5 out of 10. It is skipping frames every now and then. It is just kind of glitchy. It is tracking the eye and the mouth pretty well, but in real life it might be different because it is using your camera. So depending on the image of your camera, the tracking quality is going to vary. We're getting a decent frame rate. 30 frames is not bad at all. Sometimes it's gonna drop to 24. You can definitely see how better it looks once we reach 60 frames per second in other software. I had no problems with the model. Though this is a low poly model, that's just the style of this filter. If I was to make a more realistic and more high poly model, we will definitely have to do a lot of optimizing to reach this 4 megabyte limit. So for this specific project, this model works really well. I'm also not disappointed at the texture. Again, it's because this model is very simple. We don't need a lot of information, so I don't mind that it's limited to 1K. But if we were to have a more complex texture, 1K is definitely not enough. Also consider that I have no normal maps. I am not using the specular, roughness, whatever, so that is okay for now. When it comes to ease of use for the software, I mean, it's really straightforward. The patch editor is a great tool. I just wish like we really had one of those blocks. If you use SparkAR, you might know about the blocks here, which is just like blocks of code. So maybe have a block for just to facilitate this process of all the blend shapes. Like I wish to have all of the openness and then just attaching it to all of the blend shapes that I already have. Again, you can put more work and use all of these, but the faster that we can get this done, the better. When it comes to templates, there isn't a deformation or like face. Yeah, there isn't like a specific template for us to use the blend shapes. It might be coming soon, but for now there is just no option. So you have to just create a blank project and then follow what I did. And then in the utility category, I mean, you can use this inside of Instagram, inside of Facebook, and then a video calling experience. So it's very useful if you're trying to use it inside of those platforms. You can obviously record the video on Instagram, you know, download it to your phone and then share it on all of the other social media. You can do live streams within all of those platforms. Again, probably using the video calling experience, you can create a virtual camera and then use it on live stream on Twitch, YouTube, etc. But as for now, there is no NFT integration with the filters. It might be coming soon since we already have collectibles inside of Instagram. They might find a way to make these also NFTs. Creating the filter in Lens Studio was also easy to make using the templates that they have. We have here the face expressions template. The template is already going to come set up for you to just bring the model, and it's going to read the blend shapes. All I have to do is replace the mesh of the character. I'm gonna add my own material. The template is really straightforward. All I have to do is replace the mesh that I want to use. Here you can see that it's also reading all of the blend shapes as well. The only thing is I had to rename these according to the script. So if we go into characters expressions, you can right click on the expressions controller and go to highlight, and then we can see it here in the resources. So we can click on it, and this is the naming convention for the blend shapes. It is not following exactly Apple's AR kit naming convention, so you have to make sure that the blend shapes that you create have this name. The template actually comes with this expression debug UI, so if I activate it here, you can see that it is reading the blend shapes. Let's see, I can click and scroll up, and even though, let's see, the most important one to me was actually is not reading it here. If I go to my character face, remember that we have a tongue out, which is this one, and we have a cheek puff. I was not able, here you can see the cheek puff, I was not able to, even though I have it set up to puff and then tongue out, I don't think it's compatible with the tongue out. We can check in the expressions controller. They do have a cheek, let me see. Yeah, we have a puff scale, and then a puff rename. I don't know how to use those. We do have a cheeks. I think I tried using cheeks and it didn't work. And then there isn't a tongue out. It might be this advanced one, but I just didn't see a tongue out, maybe in mouth. Yeah, I couldn't find an easy way to do it. Again, I'm not trying to spend too much time on this because in other softwares it's just easier. So if you know how to attach this correctly, let us know in the comments. Make your own YouTube, just let the community know. As well as in SparkAR, like I'm only spending about, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes on these filters, so I might not be doing some of the things right. And then for the material, I created this, I believe it was a material, I think it was a simple PBR, and all I have attached to it is the texture. So if we go to highlight the texture, we can look at it, and here we are getting limited to a 2K texture, so this is a bit better resolution. I also have no compression on it, and hopefully you can see that it is a better quality texture because we are using a 2K. I do not see the asset summary. There is an asset library, but I need to know more information about the project. But you can see that the texture, 2K texture, is 194 kilobytes. it is getting compressed a bit differently. And then if we look at the model, here you can see all of the information of it is also like a third of a megabyte. We see all of the blend shapes, triangles, etc. I haven't been able to find the frame rate at which this is running. The Lens Studio is telling us that it is awesome, it is underneath the file size, and it is running pretty well, so we're gonna trust it. And lastly, we have the lights. I think I just added one more ambient light, didn't mess much with it. Here's the intensity that I play with. I think I also play with the color. And actually, if we go to the project info, here we can see that if your lens is using Snap's machine learning assets, then they give you a bump to 10 megabytes. But also a great advantage of making filters in Lens Studio and Spark AR is that it's gonna work in both the front and the rear camera, and this is because it's using the image to create the face tracking. I'm not sure if TikTok is doing the same thing, but that's what we're gonna check on next. So for the quality category, when it comes to tracking, the tracking is actually pretty good. It sticks on the person really well. As you can see, they're zooming out and it's still attached to the head. It is lagging, it is having trouble tracking every now and then, but it is pretty solid. Again, I had no troubles with this model in specific because it is a low poly, so it is reading it pretty well as all of the blend shapes. And for the texture, it is giving us a limit of 2K, so it is always nice to have more information of color when it comes to the albedo texture. For the ease of use category, this is also very straightforward. The template is already set up for you, so all I had to do was import the model, go into this object inside of the script, and simply choose the mesh that I need to use. So I use my Doge head snap. The only thing I had to change was the naming convention for it to read those blend shapes, though I am disappointed that it is not reading my cheek puff nor my tongue out. When it comes to templates, I am really happy of how Lens Studio is giving us access to all of these ready to go templates for us to start creating and not worry about making things from scratch. And actually, let's take a look at the face expressions template. Eye tracking is also possible, but it takes a bit more work. Aside from the character expression script, they have an eye right script and an eye left script. And then there's like two different meshes that you need to have for your eye. So you need to have an outer and an inner for the eye. And this is very inconvenient for me because I created my model with all of the blend shapes, including with the eyes, and then I have to create different things. No, thank you. This is just a lot more work. Under the utility category, when it comes to content creation, it's similar to Spark. You can create and post inside of their own platform. You can do that in Snapchat. You can download, save the video to your files, and again, export it and post it everywhere else. When it comes to video calls and streaming, similar to Spark, Snapchat has this Snap Camera application. It's really easy to use, and all it's doing is creating a virtual camera. Again, because this is using the image of your video to track, you can easily use a webcam or any camera that you want because that's what the filter is going to use. Here you can see somebody using it for streaming. You can add a green screen as well. There's a lot of options for filters because people really like this workflow. You create it in Lens Studio and then you bring it to Snap Camera and then you use it for your video calls or streaming. A couple of weeks ago, I saw this post that Snapchat is exploring to use NFTs as filters, but according to Chris Horn, we see that Snapchat has just cut their Web3 team, so we might not see NFTs inside of Snapchat anytime soon. This is how I created the filter inside of Effect House for TikTok. As of now, there is not a specific template like Snapchat to do the face deformation. I tried using the face more template, but I just created one from scratch. The setup in here is also very similar. I have a head tracker and then I have the object inside of the head tracker. You see that it's also reading all of the blend shapes, and all I have to do for them to work is under the visual scripting section is use this face avatar drive, and that is it. As you can see, it is tracking my mouth, my tongue out, the cheek puff, and the eyes. So it is also tracking the eyes. I don't have to do anything else. This is already done. For the lighting setup, I also just duplicated the directional light and play with the intensity. My material is a standard PBR. Again, I only have the albedo texture, the color texture. Unfortunately, the texture in here is also being limited to 1K. I have no compression at all, and my max resolution is 1024. So when it comes to the quality under the tracking, I think that the tracking is also really good. Like I can move pretty fast. There's not a lot of like skipping frames, so there's very little skipping frames. Of course, I have the full blend shape tracking, so again I can do everything I can do pretty much all of the blend shapes that I want. I also do not see the frame rate at which this is running. Even if I go to file, project info, we also have the green light that the file is underneath the limit. I have not tested this with the back camera. There is no option like we have in Snapchat. But going back to the size limit, here we can see that the limit is going to be 5 megabytes. 5 megabytes for filters inside of TikTok. Again, no frame rate information. We do have the triangle count, the blend shapes, the joints. I just cannot find the frame rates. It might be running at 30 frames per second, but I cannot confirm. Again, we have our model. We didn't optimize. Our texture is being limited to 1K. And when it comes to the ease of use category, I really like the Effect House software. It is only available for Mac OS. The interface blends in really well with Mac OS, though some of the UI here, for example, the text is not sharp, the icons are not sharp, everything else is, just not the visual scripting for some reason. There is not a dedicated template for this either, though there is documentation on their website. But everything you need to get this working with the blend shapes is this setup that I have right here. When it comes to the utility, very similar to the other ones. You can use this on TikTok, of course. TikTok doesn't have video calling yet, but you can create content and just, go viral on it. There is no dedicated video calling application for Effect House yet. So you can obviously go live on TikTok, but you cannot do it on anywhere else like Twitch or even YouTube. I haven't checked, but I'm sure you can use these filters inside of a live TikTok video, but there is no dedicated app for you to use it anywhere else. And then the last thing is that there is no NFT integration yet. I think that Effect House is a new application and all the social medias are playing with NFTs. It's a huge platform, so it's definitely a big move to integrate NFTs within TikTok. But for now, there is nothing that we can do. To create my filter inside of Unity/FILTA, I need to open up my Unity hub. This is not a blend shape specific template, but it is not really needed. All I had to do was drag my model inside of this base blend shapes object, and it's automatically going to read all of the blend shapes. As you can see, I can blink my eyes, tongue out, cheek puff. That's all I have to do. Just drag the model inside of this object. Here we can see the information of our model. To see the size, actually, if we go to the FILTA asset size summary, we can check the filter size. And here you can see that my Doge head face poses is 0.26 megabytes. So we have no trouble using this model, again, just because this is a low poly model. But even if this was a high poly count model, the limit size for these projects is 100 megabytes. If I go to my model's material, here we see that the texture that I am using is a 4K texture. I do have the default compression. I didn't play with that. It shows that the original size is 21.3 megabytes, but again, if we go to check the asset summary, we see that it's getting compressed to 13 megabytes. I can go ahead and say no compression, apply it. I might have to do the asset summary again. It does show as 13 and actually is showing as 83 megabytes in here. I don't know why, but if it reads it at 13 megabytes, then maybe that's all I care about. I can't tell much about it yet. I am using a universal render pipeline shader. This is a standard shader, and again, I'm only using the albedo. Under the quality category, when it comes to tracking, I mean, right now in the editor, it does look a bit laggy, but inside of the app, this runs really smooth. If we go under the game and we go under the stats, we see that it's running at about 65 frames per second, and it is going to be capped at 60 frames per second inside of the app. So it is going to be kind of hard to see for you inside of Unity. So if you want to see in real time, it's best to send this to the app. There is this dedicated application for FILTA, which is what I'm using. I am using my phone to send the signal, to send the information to Unity. But the way that this remote thing works is a bit different. So I can either choose higher quality video just for me to see it, or I can reduce the quality of the video and improve the tracking. But again, once you send it to the app, you can see the full tracking precision on it and the full quality of the filter overall. I have no problems using my model. It is reading all of the blend shapes. When it comes to the texture, I am able to use the full resolution of this 4K texture, and this is actually not the max size. You can use up to a 16K resolution, but there is just no need for me. Like, A 16K texture might take, I don't know, all of the 100 megabytes, but we still need some for the model, right? I have tried up to an 8K texture, but if you're not really close to the screen, then you're not going to be able to see that much information. So it might be a waste. We do have 100 megabytes to play with, but you still need to be considerate. So again, there is no normal map, there isn't anything else. This is just the albedo texture. Under the ease of use category, when it comes to the software, this was really straightforward. You do need to have a slight knowledge of how Unity works, but it's no other different than the other ones. Again, there is no specific character template like we have in Snapchat, but the setup of the face tracking was really simple. As far as the tools that we have available inside of Unity, if you don't already know, Unity is the full package. All of the other softwares are actually based on how Unity works. So we pretty much have all of the tools that this game engine has available to use the filters. A useful tool for this filter to create the floating text animation, I created this by just dragging in the model of the text, and the animation is being built inside of this animation tab. This is like a timeline. So for example, this wow text, I'm animating the scale. I have the scale go from 1, and then it's going a little bit bigger, and then it's going staying, and then it's going back to its normal size. So we have like an actual keyframe timeline workflow inside of Unity, and this is really useful. We don't have any JavaScript tweening, whatever that is called. If you're used to creating with keyframes, you can do that too. When it comes to utility, you can use the filters inside of the FILTA app, and just like the others, you can save the video to your phone and then post it wherever you want. There is no option to message inside of the app, nor doing video calling inside of it. As of now, this application is simply for you to run the filter. It is a dedicated application to just have the filter, create the content, save it, and then share it. There's also no dedicated video calling application for your computer. I do have a tutorial on a workaround if you want to use your FILTA filters for video calls on streaming, so you can check that out if you're interested. I'm doing a similar thing as the other apps. I am basically creating a virtual camera, and then that's what all of the other applications, Zoom, Meets, Twitch, that's what they're gonna read. And then the last thing, like the title says, this is the Web3 AR camera. So these filters are NFTs, and this is where you're gonna be able to buy those filters. They're under the Ethereum network, some are under the Polygon network. Those are the only two available right now. And this is another strong feature from FILTA. If you don't have the NFT in your wallet, you cannot use it. For the next comparison video, we're going to see the body tracking features across all of the platforms. And similar to this video, I'm going to show you my process. It's not going to be a step-by-step tutorial because there's actually a lot for me to teach, but I'm going to try to show as much as I can of the projects.